All right, welcome to week 9, our lab 8 walkthrough. This is going to be a kind of a nice review lab of some of your earlier concepts we've gone over. You might have seen some of this stuff before, but it's really good as we start to get, especially we're getting deeper into the semester here. I mean, we're more than halfway there. Let's start doing a little review so we're fresh when it comes to the final. So let's pop over to our SQL Server. And all right, so let me readjust the screen here. So we've got some tables already built for you. We've got these ones have been in the system for a while. So we're going to be using those. So starting off, we're just going to create some queries based on what we're doing here. So using our sports stats table, write a query that returns all the values. Well, first of all, we know our table is going to be sports stat. So we know we need a from statement, sports stats. Now I'm saying all values. That means all. That means everything. So we want all the columns, and we're not going to put anything to filter the rows. So this is just select star from sports stats, execute, and there you go. Now let's go ahead to the next one, and I'm going to adjust this so you can actually read it. Okay, using sports stats, write a query that only returns player name, team score. Okay, I'm going to be lazy and just copy this over here. And just under here, player name, team, points scored. You could have technically just copied and pasted that part too. And we'll run this. And there you go. We have filtered down. So now we have player name, team scored. Let me see if I adjust slightly. There you go. So only those 3 columns. Using the query from above, make points scored the first column in the results. Also, let's alias player name as player name as player name and points scored as points scored. So we're going to grab this. I'm going to go here and just to make it a little easier for me just to read it, do like this. And we want a point scored to be our first column. So we're going to cut, paste, and get rid of the last comma here. Okay. So now we want to make sure we also alias it. So as points scored. Now remember, I've got a space here, so that I have to put these square brackets around it. Because my alias has a space in it, I have to put square brackets. We'll do the same thing here. Player name, and there we are, and we run this. And there you go. Points scored, player name, team. Okay. 4, using the query from 3, add a where clause that only the team, the Reds, returns in the results. So we're going to grab this again. So we only want the Reds, so we have to add a where clause. So the where clause comes after your from, and we want to say where the team is equal to the Reds, because we know the name. Okay. There you go. That's the Reds. Now, using the query from question 3, again, and a where clause so that only add a where clause so that only the players whose names end with the letter E will appear. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a where clause, but we want player name. Remember, we have to use the actual column name, not the alias name we gave it. Now we want it ending in E, which means we're using a wildcard. So the wildcard we're going to use is the percentage sign. Okay, percentage sign E, and then instead of equal, we're going to put like. Now, one thing to look out for in this, I've seen people do this 100 times, is there'll be a space in there by accident, and you're going to get nothing back because it's looking for a space, a leading space. You don't want that. So just go ahead, make sure there's no spaces, and just do your select. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead into our joins here. Change the query below to form a full outer join. Well, that's pretty easy because here's our join statement, which is an inner because it's default. If I just type the word full, I now have a full outer join. And I execute, and there we go. Gives me everything. Debug the query below. So what do we got here? I got select star from tutor as T, joining tutor as T1, and I'm saying on tutor ID matches student ID. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So one thing we can do really quick before we do anything else is just go ahead and let's take a look at our tables here. So I'm going to slide us over here and go to our database. And we're going to look at our tables. And we've got tutor and tutoring. So tutor has a column of tutor ID, name, years of service. Tutoring has a column of tutor session, tutor ID, subject, and student ID. Well, I don't think student ID is what you want. I think you want to match the tutor ID to the tutor ID. So you want the primary and foreign key match to be tutor and tutor. So we're going to go ahead and change this to tutor ID. And run this. And there you go. Fix the query below so it only returns the following fields. What you could do is simply just copy this and paste. Now, we do not need to alias them because they don't exist in multiple. We don't need to identify which table it's from because you could technically do this. You put your values up there, but because they're not in multiple tables, we don't actually have to do that. But yes, that would be correct as well. And I always say that is good practice to do. Fix the query below. Hint, tutor ID is a field in both tables. So there we go. We just discussed it. So where do we want it from? Any one of them. Let's get it from, let's look at the error. What happens? Run it. It's always good to see the errors. Run this. Ambiguous column named tutor ID. So we go ahead and if I just put T1 or T, now I run it, problem solved. Okay. Fix the query below so null show. Let's go ahead and run this, see what our nulls look like. We had a couple of nulls here. We have two choices. The simplest is simply just get rid of the left join and your nulls will disappear. Or if you want to keep the left join, you could say where subject is not null. You do not have to capitalize null. I just do it out of habit. So. All right, bonus questions. Not required, but I highly recommend people try. Okay, so using this case statement as a template, create one that puts the points scored column from the sports stats table into three categories: high score, mid score, low score. So let's just start by pulling up our sports stats. So I got some points scored. I have like some down here as low as 3 and 5, some up here in 30s, and a bunch are in 10. So let's make it under 10 and between 10 and 20 and over 20. Okay, just randomly grouping it. So I'm going to go, remember, a case statement is just another column. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And we're going to say case when points scored less than 10, then low. When points scored is less than 20, then mid. We don't have to do it, else, we could make when point scored is greater, but we're just going to sit there and say, all right, anything else we'll call high. All right, and then we have to end our case statement. And you don't have to, but it's always good to name it. I'm going to call it points bucket. All right. There you go. So now I have a points bucket. Using the statement you created previous step, put the query into a temp table. Remember, copy, paste. How do we make a temp table? The for or the from? You simply say into. Did I pick a name to give it? Oh, okay. Sorry, so you can read the instructions here. So remember, temp table is indicated with the pound sign. So we go up in front here and we say pound. We can just call this temp1, or you can name it whatever you want. You don't have to name it temp. I'm actually gonna here. I'll name it points buck. Okay. Run this whole statement and execute. Now query my temp table and filter for low score. So now with my temp table, I can say select star from points buck, and I can query just like I would anything. So that means I can add my filter. I can say where points bucket equals low. All right. There we go. Okay, that's it. Look forward to seeing you next class. Have a good one.